Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
If you like and enjoy what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, hit 5 stars, whatever you can to help us out. Thank you so much. Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I'll be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class, aka Club 128, to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and that path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken, for them to share their experiences with my current students, and for that matter, anyone else who's interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. Let's welcome today's guest, Taylor Combs. I can never pronounce your last name. Judkins.
Judkins, you nailed it.
Judkins. I got it. Okay, I always screw it up, and it's like the first sentence and I'm already making mistakes. You see, this is what's great about a podcast. Okay, so Taylor is one. We were just talking moments ago, and I just have to start with the Combs family is one of my favorite, if probably my favorite family from Don Estridge. The mom and dad are my age, and the kids are just amazing, and they've become wonderful things. They both played intramural golf with me. They both become unbelievable people. Taylor is going to tell you her story in a moment. So first and foremost, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. If you could take a moment to briefly introduce yourself and include when you left the Don, where you went to high school, then college and post-college, and what you're currently doing now.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I guess the first thing that I should say is I apologize in advance. I'm sick, so if I cough or my voice is off, that's why.
No worries. We'll take we
but
all comers. We're on the internet, so no one's getting sick. Cough it up.
there you go. So let's see. You said when I left the Dawn, I'm like having to do serious math now, and I'm realizing that I'm getting old. So I
You're
left.
getting old, please. My
No,
birthday's in a
I'm
week.
getting
I don't
old.
want to hear it.
So I think I left Don Estridge in 2010.
Wow.
I know. So it's been a minute. So
And then some.
I know. So I was there all 3 years and went to Park Vista High School after that. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about
Yeah, go ahead.
stuff during that? Yeah. So I
go
guess
for it.
I'm just thinking about okay, high school. The biggest thing for me was marching band. We were just talking about me being a band nerd, but
This
that
is
was
not this is not the girl you would ever think would be the band nerd. And I used to razz her about it all the time. And I got to tell her before the show how I was so grateful for her not thinking I was the biggest jerk face in the world. And she just went with it and thought it was hilarious and had to prove me wrong at every step of the turn.
Hey, listen, I never thought I'd be in band either, but it was just such a big part of my life. So I feel like when I wasn't in the classroom, I was playing an instrument out on the football field marching. I was drum major there, which was an amazing experience.
Oh, I have to interrupt. What was that video that your mom sent me from UEFA? Which never would have happened had you not been the drum majorette. And I am an idiot because I never thought this would happen.
I know. So I was a drum major at University of Florida as well, which was amazing. She sent you that promo video that we did. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was fun.
Please go into that. Please tell the audience.
Well, I guess that's a good transition because then I decided to go to University of Florida. And while I was there, funnily enough, I didn't think I was actually going to do marching band, but my now husband was the one that I met at my preview session who convinced me to do band. So it's funny how things work that way.
Yes, it is.
So I decided to do marching band there. But fun, band took up so much of my life, but beyond band and being Gator band drum major, science was also a big part of my life. So I should add, I was very involved in the classroom.
Yes. Yes, and classroom, very, very good. Band was just a hobby, but I wanted you to tell the story of the video that your mom sent me when you got picked.
For that promo video, yeah. Well, I was just drum major at the time, and one of the other drum majors, he was if this is what you're referring to,
Yes.
he was, into film and videography at the time. And so it was kind of cool. He helped set that up and helped filmed it for us. And so that was just a cool thing to be on some of the official UF pages and,
And what did that
doing the
lead
hair
to?
flip.
You actually took this somewhere and did something for the first time.
It's like my debut as like my first time being drum major, and it was fun. We got to fly to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. UF happened to be playing there, and so that was really that was such a surreal moment to be
What
on the field
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say, what does that feel like? I've never been on a professional field, regardless of whether it was packed with 80,000 people or no
hmm
one. I could only imagine what that must have been. But then again, you're the head major at UF. I mean, what is the seating
Yeah, I was gonna
capacity there?
say, what's so funny is the Dallas. Maybe that's why obviously it's such a huge moment for me and such a memory. But my biggest memories, I mean, obviously Dallas Cowboy Stadium, huge, massive. But
Hmm.
my favorite memories are at UF.
Of
Like
course.
there is nothing better than seeing all the fans. 100% of that stadium is basically packed out for you, screaming for you. Our fans love Gator Band.
Oh, that's awesome.
Seeing the team there. Golly, it was such a fun time, such a adrenaline rush too, to
I could
be.
imagine it's a different scenario because most people are like, "Oh, the football players, what do they feel like?" Well,
Yeah,
there's more people that are involved in this whole thing, and how many of the other ancillary people that do other jobs for the football
right.
program get to go out on the middle of the field where every eye is on them? That has to be
Yeah.
even
It
more so than the football team themselves because you're out there. And how long is usually like the halftime show or any of the things that you guys did?
Yeah, I mean, you figure game day was all day long of us doing different things for the university. I think that it was a big transition between high school marching band and college marching band where, we're really here to support the team and the
Ah.
university. And so we're at all the events that the football players are at, hyping the fans up, getting everybody involved, making everybody feel welcome on game day. And what's so amazing is they always said like Gator Band is the soundtrack to the best years of your life. And
Oh
it's
my
so true
god.
because and that's for everybody, right? You think about those college moments, even if you're
Sure.
not in band,
Yeah.
if you hear that song wherever
You
you
know it.
are, your whole
That's it.
life, you know it. You're like, oh, this is the best time of my life. So I feel like that was such a huge responsibility every weekend that, we're it was just like a moment where when we play, everybody's coming together, and it was just so much fun. I had a blast
That's
doing that. So
awesome. Now, I just had a thought because I was watching your Florida Gators beat the tar out of my wife's
oh
Maryland
yeah.
Terrapins yesterday. Are you the same band for that as well? Did you go to the other games or were you specific football?
So there is a basketball band. A lot of
Oh.
members are the same, but there are like auditions, and it's smaller than
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the
the
arena's
football band. But
smaller and they're not going to have
right, right,
150 people there. That's too many
right,
seats. No, but
right.
this
So
is
there's
great. I'm so glad
auditions
your
and stuff.
topic you're hitting on this topic because
Mhm.
there are a lot of band kids who probably don't know what the next stage is. We're usually talking about education and we're talking
Right.
about the transition from middle school to high school to college, college to grad school, graduate school to PhD program. And I don't think enough people touch on this. And I'm really glad you did. I've never spoken about this with anyone else because I don't think I've interviewed anybody else who's
Yeah.
done this before. So I know that there are kids out there beyond the education who are going to go, well, I'm in band, but what can I do with it? And Taylor just basically gave you a roadmap to middle
hmm
school band, high school band, college band, and how it led to all these other opportunities, as well as her probably best opportunity was meeting her husband.
Yeah. Exactly. You're not wrong.
It is got to throw that in, and this is like I always say, it's better to know that the answer is no than never ask the question and find out later that it could have been yes. And here
Absolutely.
you did something, and it wasn't just like, he's going, hey, why don't you try out for the band? You're like, yeah, I've been
hmm
doing this since middle school. Like, this isn't anything new for me.
Right.
And so you already
Well,
had, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it was one of those things where in my life, it's funny you say that because I always live my life by that, and I just remember thinking at the end of the day, because I thought at the time, I'm like, I'm going to college, I'm trying to pursue some serious science career, I need to be dedicated to that, but I'm like, I've always grown so much in band, and let me just see the opportunity because I can always, do a year and then scale back. It's easier to do
Exactly.
it that way. So I'm glad that I went for it and stayed with it all 4 years because it was definitely a rewarding experience. So.
Oh, without a doubt, because
Mhm.
you never know, and you'd already done it. And what's why not just go to the next level and see what happens? And if it doesn't work out, or school becomes too challenging, or whatever it is. But I just think that's an amazing thing that you brought up, because I had totally forgotten about that. Because this podcast is usually about education and what you
Mhm.
did, tribes and tribulations. But occasionally, like I had an athlete on, like Connor Bradley. He played basketball at MIT, and but you don't really hear the other sides. And I'm sure, like we
Mhm.
said earlier, there's a whole bunch of kids out there who are like, "Is this it? Is it just middle school band and I'm done? Oh, maybe I'll try high school. Okay, high school band. Is this it? Am I done? Oh, wait, there's a college band. Maybe I should do
Right.
that too." And then, like you
Yeah.
said, I don't know anything about this because I was never talented enough to play in a band other than the. Were you at Don Estridge when I performed when we did the Dragon Band? Were you there at that time? At the
I don't think I was.
Okay, because at that one of the eighth grade dances, and actually one of the pep rallies, one of the assistant principals got a whole bunch of the teachers together, and we played in a band. And it's weird because the first time I ever performed in public, I performed in front of like 15 to 1700 people, and
Mhm.
I have friends who are professional musicians who said, I didn't perform in front of that many people until X years down the road. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, it was an interesting situation. Were you able to focus? That's what I want to know. So like that first time you went out to UF and you're like, there's like nearly 100,000 people here. How are you able to focus on the task at hand without being so overwhelmed by, oh my God, there's like a city of people here?
Well, I think so that's an interesting question. So when you're as a band member, it's funny how you just multitask, right? Like there were definitely times where my
Of
first
course.
3 years like I'm playing the flute or piccolo and but also able to like actually look around and take things in and
Wow.
you it's not distracted, but you can take things in as drum major though. I feel like people don't realize how much goes into that in a college environment, and you have no choice. You're so busy. So, like, one of the things people don't realize is as drum majors, we are on the headset with the marketing team,
Wow.
and they're telling us, like, okay, we have a required commercial here, 30 seconds, then you have 15 seconds, and we're trying to convey this and figure out what are we going to play? Okay, are we on
Ah,
defense, offense? Is there a call? Like, are we on a TV commercial break? How much time do we have? And there's a way to look. You're just so busy during the game
bombarded with
that,
information,
yeah,
with technique,
exactly.
with go here, go there, cue this, that, and it has to be precise because, like you said,
Right.
you're on a TV timeout commercial. That's
Yeah.
X amount of seconds, minutes, or whatever, and
Or
you have to be on it.
or even in the game and situational awareness. Like I remember, I mean, obviously I grown up and watched football and
With your dad, of
under
course.
yeah, and understand it, but I remember like it was a big learning experience. One of my first games, like I had the band playing a really loud song, and I was going too long so that way the offense couldn't hear each other.
Oh my
And I was
god,
like, "Oh,
that's
like my
us.
job is yeah, my job is much more serious, and on defense I need to be doing this and not on offense. Like
Oh my,
our guys need to be able to communicate." And so
oh my god.
there's just
You
so much
became
that
the
goes into it.
distraction. Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's hilarious. You see,
Yeah.
and this is something I never would have thought of. This is why I love this podcast, because I have a set things that I want to talk about, and talking to each individual person with their own story, we go down a way, and my brain is so frenetic. It just goes in all these different directions. And that's why I don't know what it is about me, but I fly better by the seat of my pants than most people, not even the average person, most people. And somehow, some way, it just seems to come together and work out. I guess it's all the years of teaching when, you have I don't know if kids know this, but, you have a cruddy lesson plan that's just not working out. You have to pivot. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some teachers, and we've all had them, who are like, I'm plowing through this and it doesn't matter. This is my lesson. Whereas I'm going, they're crickets in the class and the kids don't seem to understand what I'm talking about or care. Let's do something else. I've literally said, hold on, guys, this isn't working. Ran to my computer. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have 20 plus years of lesson plans and all kinds of stuff on my computer. And I was like, let's just change it up right now. And they're like, you can do that? I'm like, I'm the teacher. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we were doing this. I'm like, we're going to do it just in a different way. This is terrible. I'm
Right.
just not going to do it.
Right.
And they're like, how come my other teachers can't do this? And I'm like, it's an acquired skill. I don't know. I'm good off the cuff. I'm not going to
Yeah.
ram something down a 13-year-old's throat that they're like, no, I don't want a second helping of that big pile of crap. No, thank you. And, but that's, again, it's experience. It's like anything else. It's like, Taylor's a new mom. I'm sure there's some things that she's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. We
Oh, yeah.
learn it, failure is our biggest form of realize. That's how we're alive as human beings, because
Absolutely.
we've all failed at things and go, I'm not going to do that. Like my favorite thing. How many times did it take you to stop touching the hot stove when mom told you the stove was hot? And I tell the kids every year, you're still touching the stove and you're 14 years old. And they're like, I don't get it. I'm like, you will eventually, but and that's it. It's maturity. And that was another thing. You were always so much more mature in leaps and bounds as the other kids. And like we would joke around, and you knew sports really well because, again, of your dad. Shout out to Brett. And you always knew what was going on, and we could always have these conversations. And that's just what was so enjoyable about having you in my class, was like you were a student, but you were a cut above. And there was always something in my mind. I'm like, I don't know what this girl is going to finally choose to do, but she's going to rock at it. So why don't we pivot to that? What's Taylor currently doing? Why don't you flip these people out and tell them your
Oh, goodness.
educational journey?
Yeah, well, what's so funny is I thinking about just my past, I always thought I was going to be a physician of some sort. Obviously science was my number one passion and I loved everything about it. But it's funny how life works. I got onto UF's campus and was like, well, if I want to go to medical school and be competitive, I need to join a research lab. And there was like an advertisement for a nutrition lab. And I had heard like, oh, don't apply until, you're older. And I didn't have any experience. And I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. Because like you said, the worst they can say is no. And sure enough, I got in. And it was amazing how like the doors just started opening the harder I worked. And so I basically never left. I got my bachelor's degree in nutrition. I stayed on for a master's degree in human nutrition and microbiology in that realm, and got my Ph.D. as well. And so it's funny is I recently graduated. I'm doing some stuff in research administration now, and I'm going back for a postdoc, which is essentially like the residency for a PhD, and just continuing to learn as much as I can before we settle down and throw some roots somewhere officially, and then I can maybe get a job in academia. So that's kind of what I'm up to.
Amazing. And my one other question is, the majority, if I'm not wrong, of your education was provided for you financially. How?
Like
How did you pay for school?
Colin? Well, luckily my parents, undergrad, me and my parents
Yes.
worked that out. But what was great is in undergrad, I started applying for scholarships.
There you go.
And again, I always encourage people apply for scholarships, even if you don't think that you're going to qualify or you don't meet all the criteria, because I was able to get some scholarships to alleviate some of that financial burden for us. And then it was great because I was able to get paid to go to graduate school and get my PhD, and that was amazing. So
It
it's
all
nice
made
to
up
not be
for
in
it.
debt.
It all made up for it in the end. You mom and
Yeah,
dad struggled a little bit for undergrad, but once you
right.
kept going, now all of a sudden it was FREE. That's what I was trying to
Yeah,
get at. That
yeah.
Taylor is such a smart cookie and knew what to do, that she endured her undergrad, but then because of how well she did, she was able to get all of these scholarships to pay for all these advanced degrees. I mean, gosh, she's got so many and she wants more. And that's the other thing that was always so amazing to me. You were always so gravitating towards more. Like you always wanted to learn
Right.
more about something. I do remember in class
That's
a
so
few
nice.
times where I'm like, Taylor, I can't keep talking about this. I have to move on. You're like, no, but I just want to understand. I'm like, come after class. We can talk about this all you want. But and then it's sometimes I felt like Taylor and I were in a tennis match where Taylor would say something and everyone would look at her, and then it was back to me, and then everyone would look at me for my rebuttal, and then back to Taylor, and I was like, we're playing tennis in the middle of a classroom because she just wanted to know more. Like there was never, okay, I'm satisfied with that answer.
Mhm.
It was always, but there's got to be more. there's got to be what's next. There's got to be, and again, the zest for knowledge and the zest for I want to learn more is such a unique quality when you're a middle school teacher. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but to be as vocal as you were and not afraid, I don't want to say challenge, but it was not in a negative way. It was more an academic way. Like that's why you were light years ahead of everybody else. Because if you wanted to know something, you didn't care. You weren't going to be embarrassed. You weren't going to be bothered. You were like, I want to know this. And that is an equality for a kid that is just unparalleled for a middle school kid to be, I want to learn this. I want to know this. I mean, and that's just part of who you are, who was your parents and how they raised you and what they taught you and said, don't be afraid. Don't sit on your laurels. If there's something you want to know, ask. And if you can, even times you would say, look, we had 10 minutes of conversation. I didn't want to rule the whole lesson. So I stayed after class and I wanted to ask you that. Not a problem. Like, those are the kids that you want to help because, again, here you are 15 years later on my podcast talking to me about all of these things that I don't know if I've ever said to you before. And I'm so glad that I can because you're just such a fabulous human being. And, you know, you and your husband are just, as I told you before, are going to raise an unbelievable kid because the two of you, I've never met your husband. I've only seen him on social, but you know, you guys, you wouldn't have picked a dud. I'm pretty sure of that. And your dad wouldn't have let you pick a dud either. So
No.
no,
Well,
no. Brett would have been like, and this isn't for you.
yeah.
Next.
Well, these are all amazing compliments. That's very sweet of you to say. I mean, like I said, I owe everything to my parents, and I
And
think that's just kind of how
and anyone who knows
something
your
they
parents
instilled.
knows that
Yeah.
because you're such a wonderful family. You're so great together. You're just so loving and caring. And anyone who's ever entered your life, it's the same. Like you're drawn in the same way. And it's just like, this is so wonderful. And my biggest problem with Taylor is she lives too far away now. You know,
I
it's like
know. It's so sad.
I don't get to see her, but hopefully maybe we can link up this
Yes.
summer in Colorado because
Yes.
her
Absolutely.
husband has a new experience that's about to happen and they're going to move for a little while. Because that's the other thing. Maybe you could go into that and try to give people a little bit of understanding that in these fields that you and your husband are in, sometimes you're forced to just pick up and uproot yourself because unfortunately the career moves in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that is just it's so funny being on like a spouse of somebody in the medical world, and if you don't know until you're there, it's just a wild journey and a wild ride. But at the end of the day, you just got to do what you got to do, and I want him to have, the best training for his patients because at the end of the day, that's
What
who
it's
it's
all
about,
about.
right? Like coming back to our community and giving back to Greenville, and the best way he can do that is to get the best training possible, and that for him is in Denver. So I'm really excited for him and that opportunity for him. But yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
But that's life, you know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for many people, that's what breaks them up because someone is jealous, has animus, is like, well, how come it's working for you and it's not working for me? And
Yeah.
I just bought my house. My family literally just moved here
I
for
know.
us,
I
and now
know.
we're moving away. You know,
I
I
know. It's
can't do that. I mean, reality is, I'm sure I don't want to say the D word out loud, but you know, there's some people who move in a different direction and therefore
right.
they split up because of that. And you're like, nope, this is what he needs to do. And guess what? She's a smart cookie because she realizes whatever he does is going to be benefited by her as well. So
Right. I mean, I
sh-
think
no, go
that's
ahead.
at the end of the day, I feel like you always just have to remember, and I tell myself this all the time too, because I mean, his call schedule is so brutal and he works so much, but we both have a very, it's very well understood that I know he'd rather be home,
Of
and,
course,
and so I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And, this is just part of the job. I mean,
part of the
luckily
journey. Part of the
yeah,
journey. And he's
he,
not the type of guy who's like, oh, I need to go to work to get away from my family. Like, that's not him.
exactly,
You know, I've never met the
exactly.
dude, but I can figure that one out. It wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
no, but
he's always running home, so
yeah. And
that's
that's
all we can
amazing
ask for.
because you guys
Yeah.
are a team and it's go
Mhm.
team. And this time it's for him. And I was going to say, I'm sure he would do the exact same thing if it was for you. If you had
Yeah,
gotten a similar
absolutely.
situation, he'd be like, okay, McGill is giving you another opportunity. Let's go back
Right.
up to Canada, you know?
Right.
And so, you never know. And that's what makes a couple last. That's what makes a marriage go, is it's your turn. You do it.
Right.
Now
Right.
it's my
Right.
turn and I'm going to do it. And no one's having animosity. No one's having bad feelings. Everyone's like, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's a joint effort. Today we're putting the effort in for you, and then tomorrow you're putting in the effort in for me. And even if I have to remind you, it's
Exactly.
still gonna happen. So
Exactly. I know.
and that's what it's all about. It's give and take. It's funny because I don't know why I just remembered this, but right before I got married, I got into the biggest fight with my wife. Oh, it was so bad. I don't even remember what it was about, but she was about to leave to go. We got married in Arizona and we are living in Miami. And I ran into these two old people. They were an old couple. They were like in their 80s. And I was so mad. And I look, and there's this old couple shuffling down the street holding hands. And I ran right up to them and I'm like, excuse me, I don't mean to startle you, but you guys have been married for a long time? And they just look at me and start laughing. And I'm like, okay. And I go, how do you guys make it work? And she goes, a lot of listening, some understanding, but a lot of listening. And he's like, the same, but it takes us a little bit longer, meaning men. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's some interesting information. And I've thought about that for the longest time. And I always go back to that. And that's what it's all about. It's a give and take. Just because you put the ring on the finger, just because you say yes, just because you live together, have a family, it doesn't always necessarily work out, because you got to give your significant other partner their space. You got to give them their runway. You got to give them their spotlight when it's their turn. Because guess what? They're going to give it back to you when it's your turn, but you can't be jealous because your turn hasn't happened yet. And
Exactly.
and that's what it seems like you and your husband do. And it's just so wonderful to see. And now you have this beautiful little daughter, and it's just the happy family, and you guys are moving along, and it just seems so great. It's just I know it's like the pat on the back Taylor Combs moment, but I can't help it. So as I've asked many times, what was it though that inspired you for learning? Was it your mom and dad? Was it grandparents? Was it the library? Like, what was it where Taylor went, I just really enjoy this? Or it was just something you always did?
I honestly can't remember a single moment, but I do remember my grandma always says, like from a young age, because I spent a lot of time with her. Um, I think I was just always curious, and which is why I kind of loved science. Like, you hear these things as a kid, like, oh, there's outer space. Well, what does that mean? And what's there? And
Oh,
like
wow.
it's just like
Taylor was
I feel
deep
like I
even
was.
as little Taylor. She's like,
I know.
I
I'm
want
like,
to know
what?
what
How
that
does the
means. I know
world
I look
work?
at the sky, but what does that mean? Oh, my God.
I know, and it's funny because I hear my husband's mom says similar stories of that of my husband, and I just feel like that's why we get along because
You
from
think?
a little age he would always ask her questions, and she's like, "What in the world? Like, why is my 3-year-old asking like where does glass come from?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
um,
Lightning.
so I just feel like I was always curious. I saw my parents work really hard from a young age. And so I think combining that two kind of just was like, okay, they work so hard. I'm going to work hard in school. That's what I do to, emulate that.
Right.
They were also, I mean, so invested in my education. My parents actually like maneuvered their work schedule. And this is where I just have like so much privilege and luck in the world because they were literally at Fridays every Friday every week at my school in elementary school volunteering.
Yep.
you know how can I help her? They were in a classroom with me, and I just feel
And
like
that's
all
what
that.
makes the biggest difference. Knowing that they're
Oh, for
there for
sure.
you mentally, educationally,
Right.
financially,
Right.
socially, everything. They were always there for you, driving all over the place, taking you here, taking you there, going to see you. Then
Exactly.
you went to UF, and then they would go to see you there. And it's like constant, because I still do the every 6 months. I don't know if you know this, but I do check in with your mom like every 6 months. Hey, what's going on with the Combs family? And she
Hmm.
writes me this diatribe back every
I love
time.
it.
It's so great. And it's like, hey, just doing my check-in. Oh, so great to hear from you. How are you doing? And it's like, again, I don't speak to this woman once a week. She's not my mother. She's the mom of a student I
Right.
taught. I mean, I guess I could consider her a friend by now. And she just is so happy, and you can see it emulating through the
Hmm.
phone. It's like, man, all I did was send this lady a text. And it's like, you know, I guess sometimes people like to be remembered and people like to know, oh, I moved out of that area, but there's still people who think about me, care about
Hmm.
me. They helped, you know, like I say it
Right.
all the time when people tell me, they're like, oh, well, you were such an influential part of my son or daughter's life. I'm like, I was 180 days in your kid's life. If they still remember me by Mr. Proper, I'm happy about that. And if I instilled anything, but then doing this podcast, it's not for me. You know, it's lovely when the kids are like, oh, Mr. Proper, this and that. And I'm like, I really appreciate that, but it's about you. And they're like, no, you were an influential part of my life. And when you just chisel it all the way down to the finite piece, I only get to know you for 180 days.
I know.
I got to know you a little longer because you did play golf with me. Your sister played golf with me, and I got to know your parents. But that's it. A school year is 180 days, and I think people forget about that. So I have to remember that obviously, if I've made an impact on someone in 180 days, I've done something pretty well. So,
Well, I guess this is where I'll take my opportunity to give you compliments back, but
uh,
I just always appreciated the fun you brought to the classroom and learning. Like, I just feel like sometimes everything seems, heavy and stressful, and I just liked that it was an environment where it was like, oh, learning is fun,
mm,
and
appreciate
it
that.
was calm and relaxed but funny, and it didn't matter the type of day you were having, there was always going to be humor. So I feel like that always stuck with me
Wow,
in my
that's
journey, and
that's an
I
unbelievably
had,
kind thing to say. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like even, the chances that I've had to teach too, I feel like I've tried to carry that with me, that,
Aw.
these people are human, and, how can we make this the best, most
Mm.
peaceful experience for them. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm glad that you can take a little piece of me with you. That just makes me all sunshiny and happy because, you know, sometimes I sit there and wonder and I'm like, am I doing this right? Is this the way it should be? But
You're
I've
on track. You're on track.
thank you. I've had so many kids tell me that and I'm like, look, this is just my personality. And if I have to be here and you have to be here, why don't we have a good time while we're here?
Exactly.
And we're talking about 2, 3, 400-year-old dead people. That's not really that exciting. So if I can throw in a story and if I can do this and I can do that and make it any more interesting, I try because I don't want to be bored. But again, it's my personality, it's my teaching style, it's like a craft. I've been telling people lately that I feel like I put on 5 shows a day, 5 days a week for 55 minutes. And if I could just write down half of the comedy that I say in the classroom, I'd probably be a famous comic by now. But, you know, it just that's what it is. And it's like any other craft, you know, when you
Right.
with your research or your husband being a doctor, you know, you can never stop learning. And once you do, then it shows. But I've had kids
Right.
ask me, like, how are you just able to do this? And I go, there's 7 concussions. I don't know. It just happens. I can't explain it. I don't know. And they're like, but you're so much more interesting. And I'm like, look, I let you into my life. I tell you stories about me. These are real stories. I know that many of them seem so blown out of proportion and it's just impossible that these things could continually happen to one person, but they do. And I want to share them with you because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did and I want you to have the successes that I was able to have as well.
Mhm.
And if I can help you avoid pitfalls, why not? I'm just hoping that you're actually listening to me, not counting the dots on the ceiling tiles because I'm telling another story that you don't give a crap about. But whatever, you know, you take it for what it's
Yeah,
worth.
well, it's a good philosophy for sure.
Yeah, well, when you're dealing with children, like you're at
Yeah.
least in higher education, academia, so hopefully they're a little bit more mature, willing to whatever. But I'm glad that you're
Yeah.
able to throw in the levity
Yeah.
side because everybody needs that. I don't care if you're studying applied sciences or animation. You know, you need to have
Yeah, you
some.
do.
Totally. So it totally makes that difference. So you said grandma was pretty much it. So was there a teacher for you that had that light bulb moment that you were like, obviously it has to be a science teacher because that's the direction you went in, but was there that science teacher where you're like, you know, I really want to study biology or what something?
It's so funny. I mean, I feel like I'm a collection of teachers
It usually is. It takes a
Absolutely.
village, you
Yeah.
know.
But one specific thing that I will say that just comes to mind is I remember in 8th grade, Mr. Reinhardt
Yeah.
really
Ugh.
inspired me. I loved the way he taught. It was so
I
unique.
love
And I
that man's
remember,
is it wrong to say I love that man's brain?
yeah, oh, me too. It was just so fascinating. And I remember, I swear to God, I'm sure you know this, our final exam, he stood on stage in the cafeteria and he threw a ball
Mhm.
and he said, "Tell me everything about the beginning of the universe until now when I threw that ball."
Wow.
And I was like, that is amazing. I mean, I was just sitting there and I'm writing about, you know, different things and all
Right, right,
these
right.
science
Yeah.
topics
The
and
Big Bang,
history and
from the Big
yeah,
Bang to the
and
big ball.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
let's go.
literally. And then I'm talking about the ball, I'm talking about physics and inertia and
Oh
this and
my.
that. And I was just like,
Including everything.
how right. And I'm like, how that's just it was, I don't know, it was so amazing. I love just pouring out everything that I've learned onto a piece of paper. It wasn't standard multiple choice. And
Yep.
since then I've had some graduate teachers like that in grad school where
Mhm.
it was very much like that. They some of my exams were dialogue and conversation,
Yep.
and I could actually
I love those.
share and we could interact. Yeah, and it was just so much fun. So I feel like that really,
That's
hit
amazing. That is just
struck a
amazing.
nerve with me. I
Those are
know.
some of my favorite classes of all time because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I have such test anxiety. I just have
Hmm.
issues and I'm not a good test taker. And I remember the first time I was in a college class like that. And the professor's like, Jeremy, this is for you. And I was like, what do you mean? We have a test today. He's like, yeah, we don't have a standard test today. We're going to have an oral exam. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, I want to see what happens. And he was just mesmerized by what I
Right.
had to say. And he's like, why can't you put that down on paper? And I said, because I am more vocal than I am
Right.
written. My mind
Right.
works so much better than my hand. And I cannot
Hmm.
convey what I'm trying to say down on a piece of paper because I'm worried about my spelling and my crappy handwriting and everything else, punctuation and all these other things. But when I'm free talking, and the guy was just like, I need to design a class just for you. And I'm like, that would be amazing because I get straight A's and everything without having to study. It's all in there. But when you're asking me test questions and things like that, my brain just doesn't work that way. So I'm so glad to see that there's still professors out there trying to do different modalities, trying to do
Right.
different learning styles. And that's what I do in class.
Hmm.
Like, I'm an awful artist. I'm the son of an artist, and it's an embarrassment. I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't sculpt. I can take amazing photographs. That's about it. But like, I'm drawing stick figures on the board and I hear my mom's voice in the back of my head. I'm like, I can't do any better. This is it. I can't. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, my mom went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan, one of the best art
Oh,
schools in
wow.
in the country. And her son is, I can't. And so we all have our abilities. We have to, though, as teachers, I think, bend to the students. And most teachers won't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
just and I tell the students, look, I'm sorry, all of you that are really great test takers, good for you. But we need to do things the Mr. Proper way, and we all need to learn how to do it. And as Taylor is attesting, it actually pays off in the end. There is method to the madness. This is a proven technique that has
There is. There is.
that has existed for almost, oh God, what is it here, 27? And it works, but you have to be willing. But then again, school is usually routine. Sit down,
Right.
take out your notebook, write it down, do what I say, bell rings, leave. I throw the comedy in there. I throw curveballs in there. Let's talk about the sporting event that was yesterday. Did you watch the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup?
Mhm.
Did you see? I don't know. I'll talk about lacrosse. It doesn't matter. Like, I think what you really need to do as a teacher, you just have to be able to make that connection. And, when I come across the kid that plays lacrosse, I kind of understand it because it's kind of like hockey, except they have a stick in their hand above their head instead of on the ice. And I guess it's like ice hockey for the summertime. I
Yeah.
guess the Native Americans are like, can we just do hockey during the summer and run around with a ball instead? Because they invented lacrosse. And so anyway, like I just, if it's that kid's thing, here, take 5 minutes, talk about it. And that's the other
Right.
thing that kids
I
aren't
love
used
that.
to. Yeah. Give you your soapbox. Here it is. Tell everybody what you know. Sometimes they're embarrassed and they don't want to do it. Other times you can't get them to stop talking, but it gives them the feeling of, I am important to this person. I
Right.
matter
And I
to
think
this
that's so important.
person. Yeah, and making that connection. And then here we are 15 years later still having that connection, which
I
is
know. On
so
a
unbelievable.
podcast.
Yeah, and 15 years ago podcast, what's that? I never even knew what that
I
was.
know. I
And
know.
so it's
Here we
just,
are.
yeah, exactly. It's just trying to make the connection and seeing that even though you're a 13 or 14-year-old youngster, you have things and abilities that I'm interested in. And like I randomly ask them things just to see what they say or think, and they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I have a 15-year-old niece and a 12-year-old nephew, and they tell me stuff. Plus, I know it's hard to believe, children, but I listen to you. That's another one.
True.
That's another one. They don't think adults ever listen to them. And I'm like, this is my job. I have to listen to children, because if not, I'm going to miss something and not know what's going on. And they appreciate that. I think, but again, I'm not that deep thinker. I'm not Taylor. My brain doesn't work that way, but somehow it penetrates into my cell membranes, and I do it anyway. Like, I'm not sitting there. Like, my wife asks me this all the time. Well, do you stop and think about, and the answer is no. I don't stop and think about anything. I just do. I am a doer. I'm not a thinker per se, but I am a doer. And if it didn't work, all right, I won't do that again. And my biggest thing I think that I do for kids is when I make a mistake, or if I've hurt someone's feelings because I said something that maybe they were in a bad mood that day or they took wrong, it wasn't intended that way. I'm the first one to apologize. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry if you took it that way, but that's not how I meant it. And they look at me stone faced like, wait, an adult teacher just apologized to me in front of 25 other kids. And I'm like, well, I made a mistake and I hurt your feelings. Even though I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, I'm not too big to apologize to a child. And they just look at you like, this has never happened before. And I go, I know that. I don't want to have animus and a problem with you. I want you to know,
Right.
I truly,
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. I'm sorry. Let's move on. If you need to talk to me after class, fine. But I didn't mean that. And I don't think
Right.
many teachers are willing to admit their faults or their mistakes. And
Mhm.
I think that regardless of whether you remember it or not, or if it happened to you or not, or you witnessed it or not, I think it goes a long way with kids when they do, because they're like, wow, this guy isn't like everybody else, and I kind of pride myself on that. I don't want to be. I never wanted to be that old curmudgeonly teacher who was like, children are terrible. I'm like, why are you a teacher? Like, what are you doing? Why did you just spend 30 years of your life, 4 years of college, 2 years of graduate school to do this, if this isn't what you like? And kids ask me that all the time. How come teachers don't like students? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you. Everyone is an individual, because now this is what they don't understand. I can't unpack someone's life in front of you. I don't know what their life experience is and what happened to them. And, everybody's different. I come to work. I have this one student this year who saw that I was in a bad mood and something had happened and I was really upset. She waited after class, excuse me, and is like, I really hope whatever happened to you, you get over soon, because, I really don't like it when you're not in a good mood because class isn't as fun.
Oh.
And I was like, I am so sorry that you picked up on that. She's like, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, Mr. Barber. We know when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're mad, and when you're glad. And I was like, oh, yes, you do. But again, she had the intestinal fortitude to say that to her adult teacher, who obviously she
that was
feels
very nice.
Yeah. In Spanish, it's confianza. Like, you have this connection and that you feel like I can say whatever and you're not going to get mad at me. And I was like, oh my God, this is the nicest kid ever. Like, that alone got me out of the funk. Just hearing that from somebody caring. And that's the thing out there. You got to figure out who are the people out there who are really trying to hurt me. And this is where social media drives me nuts. I'm sorry I have to make a left turn at Albuquerque, but they believe all this crap that they see on social. And it's like, I've even said it to the kids. I'm like, can't you just judge each individual teacher for the person that you see 5 hours a week, 5 times a week? Not just say, oh, well, the internet says that teachers are bad, so I have to agree. Are you not intellectually stimulated and understanding enough to figure out this is a good teacher and this is not because the internet says that? And that's what gets me. And it's like, we've got the internet says that all children are this, and this. Do I behave in such a manner? No, I give you the benefit of the doubt, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem these days to excuse me, to come back. Oh.
They'll get there. They'll
Yeah.
get there.
Oh, yeah. And that's it. They'll get there. But the problem is some
I
days you're
know.
like, can there be now?
Now, yeah, please.
Can we get there today? Like, all right, I've been putting up with you for 150 days. Can we just be there?
Oh, that's funny.
So, if you could turn back time and tell 8th grade Taylor something, I've actually made an addendum to this question because I started to realize I know I wouldn't listen to me. Taylor
Mhm.
probably would. If you were able to go back to 8th grade Taylor and be like, hey, I'm future you. I need to tell you this to try to make your life a little bit easier. A, would you listen to yourself? And B, what would you tell yourself?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think I probably would listen to myself. I would
I know
hope,
you would.
but
You would. I know you. You would. I
I,
would not.
I, you know, I guess the biggest thing for me is I feel like it's just in my personality where, you move through academics and I feel like I was always clawing, right? I'm always jockeying for the next how can I do more? How can I get in this club? But if I'm going to be in the club, I want to be the president. And how can I do that? And how can I get A's?
I want
And
to
how
be
can I
number
take
one
the
all the
most?
time.
Yeah. How can I be? Yeah. And I don't know why maybe that's a bad thing, but
No, it
it's
is
just like,
not. Do not ever
that's,
say that again out loud to the universe. Do not ever
I,
say that. That is what has driven you to be the successful mom, person, woman that you are. Without that
uh,
drive, Taylor, you wouldn't be the person
yeah.
that you are.
Yeah.
That
I
that is
mean,
not a negative. To a lot of people, though, it is. I don't see it
yeah.
that way. To be
Yeah.
honest, I wish I could pull a little of that DNA out of you and shove it into me and be more motivated to do stuff. I'd
Well,
accomplish a lot more.
I will say there is a little, this is what my point was, is I feel like you get to a certain point and it's still in you, but I mean, man, sometimes you can feel that burnout, and I feel like maybe my advice would be it's okay to stop and smell the roses
There,
every once in a while. It's
there it
okay.
is. That's what
Like,
I was waiting for.
yeah.
That's it. You got to stop and smell the roses. The
Right.
problem is you can't be smelling the roses for 3 days. You have to just
Yeah.
stop. That's what a rose smells like. Back to
And
the
move on.
move
Yep,
on.
I know.
Many of us
I
are
know.
like, oh, I only 3 more hours of death, death, kill, kill 5. Come on, I
Yeah.
can do it. I can beat this game. No, move on. And that's the difference is that you got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to listen to this woman. She stopped and smelled the roses and then got back up and continued on the journey. She didn't get
Yeah.
derailed. She didn't get sidetracked. She didn't do the Mr. Proper left turn at Albuquerque. By the way, that's a Bugs Bunny reference, which I don't even know if anyone listening would get that. So what happens is that we all need to take a break. Whether it
Yeah.
be family, wife, friends, job, school, find whatever it is that you like to do and do it. And just like this woman, don't be ashamed of it. Be proud of it. Don't try to hide it from people. Because, like I said, when I saw little Taylor walk into my room with her little flute in her hand, I'm like, this kid's in band. Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. And we just went at it. And I was not
Yeah.
expecting what I got back. And I was so proud that I did. I was like, I love this kid. She's amazing. She's not going to take my crap. And that's like my favorite kind of kid that you can get into it with them. And they're like, oh, I got 2 more spoonfuls for you, sir.
Here we go. Yep.
It's on. Here we go. Exactly. And there's little Taylor saying, and I was like, oh my God. And I can't tell you how many times I've said to both of your parents, I know it's a little late in the game, but can you make a couple more of these, please?
Yeah.
Because like these are great. You did a good job, a great job with these 2.
Thank you very much.
The
Thank you
world
very
could
much.
afford 2 more. And your dad's like, yeah, the world can, but I can't. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing, and it's the whole package with Taylor. It's her drive. It's what she was given. It was her support system, her parents, her grandparents, her loving sister. I mean, like I could honestly say they would bicker, but I never saw them really like full on fight with each other, and that just shows the love and the caring and the understanding and just how much that they appreciated each other. And it's amazing. And these are the things that everyone needs, because if there's adversity, yeah, we can all get through adversity. But like I said earlier, who's your village? Who's helping you to the next level to get through this difficult adversity?
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor's had it every step of the way. We all should be so lucky to have half of what she had, because that's what's enabled you to do it because of
Right.
the support system.
Exactly.
And then
Absolutely.
if it ever went awry, then you had mom and dad to cry on their shoulder. It'll be okay. We'll
Hmm.
get through this. We'll figure it out. And it never was the end of the world because, your parents would never let it be because they saw well before I ever got my 180 days what a wonderful person that you are. And they're like, we're going to do whatever it takes. And that's what everyone needs. That, I'm not going to get let down because my people around me aren't getting let down. And that in itself is so important. So, did you
Absolutely.
did you possibly have a challenge? I mean, you're so brilliant. Did you have what would be a Taylor challenging experience? Like, was there a class or a teacher that no matter how hard you worked at something, it just didn't sink in, or you just weren't on the same page with them? Is there something that was a real challenging educational experience that you had to overcome?
Um, you know, I guess I'm literally just shooting off the first things that come to mind
That's
here.
fine. Those are usually the best.
I think one of the interesting challenges happened to me in grad school. Not that I didn't have challenges before that. I definitely did.
We
But
all did. But this is just the one that pops into your head right now. Of course, I'm
yeah, the
putting you
one
on the
that
spot.
yes. So
Well, in fourth grade in Mrs.
I
Harris's
yeah,
class,
I
I
know. I
remember I
know.
couldn't pick up the cookie fast enough. Anyway, sorry.
So in grad school I felt a lump in my neck and it turned out to be metastatic cancer. And
Wow.
that's something that you just don't think of, you're ever going to have a problem like that.
And especially at
And
how old were
so,
you? Like 22, 24,
yeah, golly, yeah, 24, 25,
24.
26. I don't know. It all blends together. I,
Yeah.
I guess it was 3 years ago. So I
Okay.
was, yeah, 20, 24, 25. But
Wow.
anyways, young. So I think it was interesting. Couple things. I mean, obviously, I'm going through a PhD program. I'm running two major clinical trials. Patients, participants are relying. Not that I have, I wasn't doing critical research, but like I'm doing
No, but they
research,
still
and I
needed
need to.
you.
Yeah, like I still needed to be there to organize things, and luckily, it wasn't I've seen terrible cancer journeys, and mine was not that. But nonetheless, like still trying to balance, surgeries, complications from that, radiation, etc., while not taking a step back. That was really an interesting time to navigate. But then I also think like that was a time where my mentality really started to shift, where I was like, okay, what is really important here? Like, do I need an A, or do I just need, to do
Yes.
what I need to
Right,
do
right, right. I have
and
other things
enjoy
on
my
the back
life?
burner. Actually, not even the back
Yeah,
burner. I have other things on the front burner. This is now the back
right.
burner.
Right. And so I think that was just a challenge that really kind of shifted the way that I think and still think.
Of
Because
course. Life changing.
obviously, yeah, like things are a priority and anything that's worth doing is worth doing well. But like at the end of the day, what is important here? Family, being happy, like that. And I feel like for me, some of the happiness was like in education and getting an A and always, being on my A game and never letting anybody down. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to reprioritize some things in life. Like I am only doing what makes me happy now. And
Isn't that
I'm
funny?
going to set some boundaries and,
Isn't it funny how that
um,
happens? That there's a life
yeah,
changing event, and all of a sudden, the nose to the grindstone, Taylor, AAA, got to be the best, got to be number one. All of a sudden, you're like, there's some
yeah,
things that
what's
are,
really important here?
yeah, exactly. Where are my priorities?
Right.
And they just shifted. And that's what's
Right.
amazing that many people would have been like, meh, I need to keep doing this and whatever with that. And you're like, well, without my health, I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So this is kind
Which
of important.
which I like that's one of my proudest accomplishments. Like I still like I honestly pat myself on the back. Like I got it done. Like I
You did.
managed all of it. And then, I was not expecting to have a baby when I did, but obviously I had to do fertility preservation and my doctor's like, if you want a baby, you might want to do it now
Well, at
if
least they
cancer comes
told
back,
you,
etc.
at least they gave you that option. It wasn't just like, okay, let's
Yeah.
do this. And oh, by the way, you can't
Yeah.
have kids anymore.
Right. Yeah. And so, like once I finished treatment, they were like, you might want to have a baby now. And
Like
so I'm like,
now.
oh my God, I'm going to have a baby in grad school. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? So
Right.
I'm,
I'm still a
going through
baby. What are you
IVF.
talking about? I'm not even 30 years
Yeah.
old. Oh my
I
God.
know. I'm like going through IVF and doing grad school and like having a baby. I'm like defending my PhD defense, super pregnant. It was just crazy.
All right,
But
I got to
like
say this
I'm
out into the universe, but Taylor is my own personal superhero. The things that this woman has accomplished is just mind-boggling. I can't even say it. Mind-boggling, amazing. And the fact that she went through
well,
all
thank
of
you.
these things, was able to accomplish all these things. And again, I'm not just blowing smoke. I believe everything that I say. I'm the type of person, if I say it, I mean it. I don't just say things to like, oh yeah, okay, here you go. No. And the mere fact of everything that the myriad cornucopia of speed bumps and problems, like everything was flying along. And then all of a sudden on social, I'm like, what is this? I'm like,
I
oh
know.
my gosh. And the fact that you shared it with everyone was like so amazing. And I was so proud of you for doing that, to let everybody in, to know what was going
Yeah.
on and step by step. And in Hebrew, we would say Baruch Hashem, which is thank God, that everything worked
Hmm.
out and you did all the right
Yeah.
things and everything is moving forward. And we're 3 years removed from this, which is so amazing. And you have this beautiful
Right.
baby and this wonderful
I
husband.
know. I know.
Everything. It's kind of like that was like a little rest stop. It was almost like Taylor needs to take a break. And
Yeah, it was, I mean, like, it sounds weird, but it was not a good thing that happened, but like I'm appreciative of the things and the that came out of it and what I learned from the experience. So, yeah.
And that's any experience. If you can take
Yeah.
anything out of a bad experience, I tell this to kids all the time. There's no really such thing as a bad experience. They're all just learning experiences. If you take something out of it and you're able to be a better person and move forward, which again, I don't know how Taylor can be a better person, but she just told you she was. So I'm wrong again, especially with this woman. And it's amazing how you just keep learning and you're not letting the barriers be barriers. You're just like, okay, this is a detour. And then we just get back on the
Hmm.
highway and we just keep going. It's kind of like when you got off the highway and you found yourself in, what's the name of the town in Cars? My brain won't.
Radiator Springs.
Radiator Springs. We just got off the highway to Radiator Springs. Very good, Taylor. And there, all of a sudden, we saw the tire guy, and we saw
Yeah.
the Flo's Diner, and it was
Yeah.
like, and that's it. And then you're like, okay, my time is done here. Get back on the highway and keep doing what I'm doing. And that's
Yep.
what makes you the person that you are. It's like many people would have crumbled in that situation. Many people wouldn't have finished. They would have just been like, okay, I got to focus on this. Everything else, whatever, whatever. And that's the story of people. I was going to get my PhD, but I got sick and then it just never happened.
Hmm.
It never ended. And Taylor's like, yeah, that's just a side trip. Now I'm back on the main trip.
Oh no, we are finishing this PhD. Let me tell you.
Yeah, of course. You've worked so hard for it. So you just basically have talked about all these tribes and tribulations. What is unwind time for Taylor? What's her little thing that she likes to do that's just kind of like, all right, like the kitten with the little ball of twine?
Oh,
What's Taylor's ball of
I
twine?
I honestly my favorite thing to do these days is just go on a long walk with my husband and my daughter and just talk about anything and everything.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
love the family time. I love hanging out with them. I feel like my husband's always the person I can go to for the decompression time, and we can talk about anything and everything. I also love that he's in the science world. We can talk about work and understand each other and etc. So I would say that, and a glass of wine.
Of course, we all have
That's
to
great
have
too.
something, without a doubt. And
Yeah.
it's so important. I've moved away. I prefer cider, hard cider these days because
Yeah.
I used to love beer, but as a guy, that spare tire needed to get lost. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, you need whatever it is that helps you to
That's
move.
something.
Yeah, and it just gets you going, and it's
Right.
deserved. You're an adult, so you deserve these things for all the things that you have done, and that's what it's all about. That's awesome that you have that
Hmm.
that structure, you have that family component, you have your extended family component, and it just makes
Yeah.
everything so much easier because if it's one of those days, your mom will be at your house in 30 seconds to,
Exactly.
to take that daughter, and you're like, I need a me
Exactly.
day. And your mom's like, have fun.
Exactly.
She's already at the
I
door,
know.
like, knock, knock, knock.
I really am so lucky.
And that's an amazing thing to have. That
Yeah.
family infrastructure just makes it so much easier. And even like you said, when you told me previous, when we were talking, that you're moving to Denver and your husband's family is going to move there with you to help you with all this. And you have a
Exactly.
secondary family. So it's not like it's just your mom and dad, it's your in-laws as well, which is, that in itself is tremendous because now you have a true second set of parents, which everyone would love to have. That's amazing. Wow.
I know. I'm so excited. But
So is there something that at some point after Don Estridge that all of a sudden one day you went, oh my gosh, I learned that from the Don and I'm still using it? Does that still exist in your life? Have you ever looked back on something like that?
not specifically, but I just feel like Don Estridge was just such a unique place with so many wonderful teachers. I mean, honestly, I can't even think in my mind of a terrible teacher I had at Don Estridge. I feel like my teachers were all so wonderful. I learned so much from everybody. And I mean, like I said, I just feel like a mosaic of everything that I was taught there. I mean, good work ethic. Learned a lot in band from our band director at the time.
Was that Mickey Gottney?
So
Is that Mr. Gottney?
yeah,
Ah,
yep,
see,
yep.
that I can remember.
Yeah, I know. So I just learned so much
That's awesome.
from you guys on how to be a good student and a good learner. So I'm very appreciative of Don Estridge for that.
And you've taken it with you all the way through till today, getting your
Exactly.
PhD. So that's wonderful that we could lay that foundation, and you just basically took out like
Yep.
Lightning McQueen. You just got on the
I
thing and
know.
started paving your own road, and you're like, thanks, and now I'm going to go forth and conquer. And that's what's amazing. That's what you did. You take all of these things, and it's kind of like a backpack, and you have it in your backpack, and you take it out whenever you need it, and all of a sudden, oh, I learned this, I'm going to use
Mhm.
that. Oh, I learned that, now I'm going to use this. And that's what Taylor has done, and that's amazing. That's what we're trying to teach you guys, is that we're just trying to fill up your backpack with as many usable items as possible so you can be as successful as possible. And Taylor's a shining example of what apparently we did. So thank you for
Thank you.
taking that
Thank
with
you.
you. Oh, no worries. So as I end all these podcasts, since the school is named Don Estridge, I love to ask the kids if they remember who Don Estridge as the person was.
I remember. Oh, well, first of all, first and foremost, he's a University of Florida alumni. Go
Yes,
Gators!
that's
I do
right.
know that.
That is right.
Um,
I
he
remember hearing
he
that
was.
somewhere. Good
I
one.
know he was kind of pioneered the like the personal computer, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Nice.
Ta-da! Very good. He is supposed to be the father of the personal computer. He,
Nice. I'm shocked I remembered that. No, I'm not.
no, I'm not at all. And supposedly,
No disrespect to Mr. Don Estridge.
not at all. Supposedly, he invented that at the facility of the school now, because originally it was an IBM facility, and
Okay.
supposedly he invented it there. We in the front office have his personal computer, not the first one he invented, but the one that he used. When the family found out that we were naming the school after him, they donated his personal computer, and it sits in the front office. So we have that
Very cool.
to attest. So I'm really glad that you remember that. Well, on that
Nice.
note, it's so wonderful as always to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. I know there are a whole bunch of people out there who are going to be like, this kid was in the band and now look what she's doing. And
Do band, guys. Do band.
do band. It teaches you a lot of
Yeah.
things and it's amazing. So I'm just so thankful
Well, thank you
because,
for having me.
oh, no problem. I really appreciate it because you tell such a good story and you have so many great insights. And I can't wait to see what happens with this PhD and where your husband
I
becomes a
know.
doctor and you guys finally get to settle down and be in one place for forever.
I know. Me too. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate getting to share a little bit of my story.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to How I Got Here podcast with Mr. Proper. Music provided by Miss Mata. Thank you to Patty Fernandez for the introduction. Thank you to Seth Proper for logistics and behind-the-scenes production. Join us next time for another episode of How I Got Here and more stories of former students and their journey.